And here we go. And 3, 2, 1, go.
The funny thing about telling stories about the rock world is that the real stories are crazier than anything I could ever make up. Sometimes to the point where I say, no one will believe this.
New York in the 70s was very interesting. It was very interesting from an artistic point of view. For me, it was an amazing place to be in the 70s.
We were able to faithfully recreate this wildness, this wild nature and debauchery of the period without toning anything down.
We get a peek into that time, a time that really is a beloved time by many people who are fans of rock and roll, particularly American rock and roll and New York City rock and roll.
We are telling our story in the most exciting environment imaginable because all the people that we still draw inspiration from today as musicians were there.
This project began almost 20 years ago when Mick Jagger first approached me about doing a feature film set in the world of rock and roll, about the rock and roll business.
I just had this idea for a movie. I went to see Marty, who I knew already, and we just talked about it and started to develop it.
We tried for a number of years to pull it together as a feature, and eventually Terry Winter got involved, and he suggested that we make it into a TV series because it's so rich.
The great thing for me about writing a television series is you get to dig so deep into characters.
I want you to know what love is.
Well, the city of New York in the early 70s was at this low point, with a crime rate that was really high. As is often the case, however, tumultuous times and circumstances can prove to be fertile ground for producing great artists.
It was a time where music was really rising from the ashes of a city that was just downtrodden. But often, when there's a place that has a lot of crime and people struggling and rents are low, that's where artists find their home.
It's a fascinating time for New York, and it's also a time when New York's in a very bad financial state and not a really good place to live. Or if you bring out a family or something like that, it's horrible. If you're single and a musician, it's slightly different.
But there was also something authentic about what New York was. Like, there was an exciting struggle that we were all going through, something that is being generated here, and none of us really know what it is. And it's exciting, and it's really dangerous.
Blow, reefer, loot.
Hey man, what is this place?
It's music.
And what I think is interesting about this period of time is there's a lot of despair in the world, and all that anger and frustration is channeled into the music. We recreated Max's Kansas City, and Devin is hanging out there, as well as Bruce Springsteen, John Lennon, Bob Marley and Peter Tosh are on stage with the Wailers. And I said, no, wait a minute, this seems very stacked with very famous people. Are we just loading this scene with recognizable faces? And the producer said, no, this was a real night. A night that didn't seem historic at the time because it was just another great night of music in New York.
The 70s was the most interesting period because so many different things were happening. 73 specifically was the year that punk, disco, and hip-hop all were invented within a 6-month period of each other, within about a 5-mile radius of each other in New York City.
Richie, this is Kip Stevens.
You guys ready?
Certainly by the time 1973 came around in New York City, there was a sort of groundswell of a new sound that Richie was in on the ground floor of, the birth of punk here in New York City and various clubs that were open here.
The thing that was so exciting about the punk movement was really, it was kind of like a revolution. Fucking play it! Yeah, they're just saying like, fuck you. That's what they're saying, and they're saying it with their lyrics, with their attitude, with their snarls.
Most of the music that the Nasty Bits do in the show are things that we've done originally for the show.
We've been recording in Electric Lady, which is a very prestigious old studio in the West Village, which was famously Jimi Hendrix set up in the early 70s.
You feeling what I'm making here, right?
I don't know that you're making anything, but I do think that you're trying. Keep on, Herc.
When Herc was doing this, it was really revolutionary. They would use disco records, rock records, jazz records, funk records, anything. That's really one of the most beautiful things about what hip-hop at that point was. Anything was fair game.
Fuck is this?
The letter dropping indigo?
What? No, I gave it to you like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. But I've been pushing their album. This fucking dance music, it is a totally untapped market. In 1973, we have some underground dance clubs. Dance music is going to take its step into the pop world, and discos are just sort of getting going.
There's a lot of these interstitial moments where we'll see Ruth Brown and we'll see Bo Diddley, Gene Vincent. There's a definite nod to the creative influences of the music that we're currently trying to nurture here in 1973.
For me, it gave me an insight into Ritchie's state of mind. It almost provides us a soundtrack of his psyche. So in addition to providing, at times, a sort of connective tissue between the scenes, these moments set a tone for me for Ritchie's emotional state.
Like the ghosts are always amongst the characters.
Music has never been used like this on a TV show. When we do our table reads, we have a reader who reads the stage directions, and he sings the music so that we all have a sense of what the music in the episode will feel like. I just love that.
We found a guy that looked a lot like Elvis and it was very good. And I spent a long time looking at the Elvises, you know, and it was really tricky.
I think Elvis performing Polk Salad Annie really needs to be seen to be believed. It's really those moments where we would be on set and you would double take because you thought, oh my God, it's Elvis.
Back it up to the end of the verse.
So once the casting is done, then they really study footage and recordings of the actual band they're trying to mimic. Choreographing the performance, making sure that we're faithful to how that performer moved, sang, the stage presence, everything that goes into it.
It's a period when people were really feeling free to explore themselves in their clothing, in the way they looked. People were interested in reinventing themselves. And sometimes we will be in the shop just staring at this clothing and going, what drugs were they on when they created this? Because it's just the mix-up, the mash-up. It's kind of like the music, actually, in that way, in that people were using elements from other periods and mashing it up and creating a whole new type of music. Actually, this was the first time, I think, probably in American culture, where people got interested in vintage clothing. So suddenly you've got, young people in the village running around in 1930s clothing and 20s and 50s and mixing it all up with the contemporary clothing. And that's what's really fun about this period. This is where we make and create and alter all the clothing that we do in the show. This is where we fit all the background. Every person who's in the show comes to us, and we take them in the dressing room, and we outfit them with a costume and do all the alterations to make them appropriate for the scene that they're going to be in. Back here is where we keep all of our 1970s clothing. I like to think of it as our 1973 department store. This is just tip of the iceberg of the clothing that we own, but it's rather extensive, and we're constantly shopping, constantly replenishing. We have vintage vendors who help us a great deal. We make a lot of this clothing ourselves. And these are some of the costumes from the show. This is a costume that we created for David Bowie. He's doing a sort of last rehearsal before a performance. And so this is actually David Bowie's streetwear. We researched him heavily as well. We fell in love with this Panay velvet jacket that he had. David Bowie reinvented himself every year, though. As soon as he created an image, he smashed it to bits and started from scratch.
Ziggy's retiring.
Moving back to Mars?
Something like that.
Olivia Wilde, who plays Devon, is like the most wonderful person that you will ever have to dress in your entire life if you're a costume designer. She looks great in everything, and she has a great personal style herself. This is the dress that we made for her to wear to the benefit. I fell in love with the fabric and just thought, if anybody can pull this off, Olivia can.
Hannibal!
We sort of based him loosely on, you know, Sly and the Family Stone. So for his stage outfit, we created from scratch this red leather jumpsuit. We found these amazing platform boots, which we painted to match. This is his everyday wear. He's, you know, always wanted to be the center of attention, and, you know, when he enters the room, you would be looking at him. So we created these beautiful outfits for him. This is a beautiful brocade that we found. Then this is a crushed velvet, which is always a popular fabric in the early 70s. This is the character boards that we put together for the characters of the American Century Company. This is Jamie. These are the outfits that she's worn throughout the season. I have them put these together so that I can just really get a visual arc of what the character is doing through the entire season.
You okay, boss?
Fit as a fiddle, ready for love.
The 70s is so fun because it has so many different types of looks. You have your rock star, you have your glam rocker, you have your punk rocker, you have the mainstream, you have like the leftover 60s, you have the hippies. Juno, who plays Jamie Vine, she is one of my favorite characters on the show because she is so edgy. So we thought like, oh, we're gonna have fun with her. We're gonna do crazy eyes.
A lot of late nights in a row.
You gonna tell me how to handle myself?
Cece's always styling. She's probably the most styling one in there at American Century. She's such a pretty girl, and we just wanted to show that she's this hot babe. So we did like a very glam 70s makeup. So we got her all frosty, big lashes, really nice glossy lips. I just love it. Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah, we like it.
That's Cece. And now we have to get her hair on.
I love the 70s. I really do. People embraced their natural texture. So I have a huge wig department.
Also, totally different, right?
You never call me. Andy Warhol, which is another really cool wig, he normally had his own hair at the bottom, and the top was a toupee. So we had a two-part wig made and put together as one. The bottom half was a handmade lace wig so that he had the short brownish hair. And then where the toupee would have started, we had the top portion of the wig made with the white hair.
We're in the reception area at American Century Records, which we imagined to be in the Brill Building, which has quite a history in the music business. It was basically Tin Pan Alley. The American Century that we've seen built starts this way. They start with drawings. The drawings become a model. This, again, is another example of something where everybody can have an object in front of them or an idea in front of them that we can all agree on. Because there are a lot of chefs making the broth here, and the idea is not to have it coming from all different directions. Everybody's trying to make the same show with the same point of view.
Maybe we could get hipper offices, move out of the Brill Building.
I like it here. Asshole.
Well, we're on one of the larger stages at Snyder Studios. That's pretty typical, what you see from above of the construction that we use. A little backstage area here that houses our elevators. Richie arrives in the morning and comes out of the elevator, and it opens up for him.
Who would what, Cece?
American Century is our home base set, really, in a way, and it's Richie's office and the front office, the elevators. That set was built for the pilot, and when we started the series, we expanded that, almost doubling the size of it.
When you go in there and you see all the things you don't see anymore, like the reel-to-reel tape boxes, the different kinds of playbacks, you know, the cassettes, you know, all the equipment and all the stuff that's lying around and the magazines that don't really mean anything anymore. And yeah, it really brings you back.
It was a very transitional decade. The 60s sort of blew everything up, the late 60s, and there was Woodstock, of course, and all of that. 1973 is not very far removed from that. So I'm looking always not at just research in 1973, but all through the 60s, even back into the 50s. This is the bullpen area. A lot of our characters inhabit this world right in here. Ritchie's office. American Century's awards are here, the Grammys, various gold records. More offices. This is Zach's office. This is Skip's office. This is the conference room. This is sort of Midtown Broadway. That's what you see out the windows there. This is the backdrop that sets us right in Times Square, basically, where the Brill Building is located, right on Broadway. Here are New York City street details. This kind of thing really helps us. We see the color that street signs were in the period, walk, don't walk signs, telephone booths you don't see anymore like this. New York was rough in 1973. You kind of had to fight your way through it.
Working in the 70s is really interesting because everything is so rich and full of color and reality. Nothing is really perfect. You know, in the 70s, everything was just kind of flowing.
Trying to make it look realistic and getting all the garbage, you know, like the mattresses, and then filling all the garbage cans.
Not everybody is so happy about having their little part of the world turn into a trashed out period 1973 image. The graffiti aspect of it is interesting. When you think about graffiti in New York, a lot of people flash back to what you saw on like subway cars, these elaborate graffiti murals by these guys who put hours and hours into it. That hadn't really come about in the 70s yet. And true graffiti, where people were running up, tagging something, and getting out of there. And so that's what we try to recreate with the Scenics. We looked at a lot of research, and I told the Scenics, you know, if it's taking you more than 30 seconds to do that, you got caught.
Some places in the city don't want us to put graffiti all over the place. So the art department would hire the graffiti artists to make the tags on just cardboard. And I just photograph them, high-res photography, and then our compositors will take them one at a time and put them on the buildings, and we'll just use reference photographs.
It's funny to think of this as an historical piece because, to me, particularly when I was on the set, I'd look around, everybody was dressed in 1973 styles, and suddenly felt very comfortable because I'd been there. I lived through this one, so I got very strong opinions on the way things should look and sound.
Think back to the first time you heard a song that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
It was just an absolute insane time period and an insane business.
Made you want to dance or go out and kick somebody's ass.
That sort of encouraged incredibly raucous, irresponsible, but very fun behavior.
I want you to know what love is.